I'm thinking about how I'm going to answer that question, because the advantage that I have is I'm at the phase of my life where I don't get moody. You know what I mean? I don't do mood. You know, I don't do moods because as one gets older, you learn to become even keeled. You learn to pull down the mountains and fill the valleys, and everything just sort of. And then you have a track record of, if you've seen something, a challenge, you know that certain things will happen and it will be fixed, it will be fine. And maybe you've even worked out how to make that happen. I think somebody just made a comment. Moodiness for me.
The question was
moodiness for me is about self-mastery. I like that. There's a comment that says it's about, yes. And taking a decision. I think it's a decision that one takes at some point in one's life where you get tired of being tossed up and down, getting moody, and allowing external circumstances to affect your mood, to affect how you feel. And when you take that decision, you know, I can remember the day I actually took a decision that no longer will certain things affect me, right? And because I was able to, you have to be able to track what causes those moods.
Yeah.
And then you now take the decision and say, this will no longer have an effect on me.
Yeah.
And once you take that decision, you start building your mental capability, your inner strength, and you begin to actively ensure that your mood is no longer affected by those things. So it takes identification.
Mm-hmm.
It takes knowing how to connect what you've identified to your moods. Yeah. And then you take that decision and you begin to course correct.
Yeah.
And as you continue to do that, you find that mind over matter, you're just able to, you know, yes. And then and then another thing that I do is mindfulness. You know, for a long time, I didn't quite understand mindfulness till I read about it and I realized, oh, is that what I actually do? Where you spend time, for me, it's in the morning, thinking, reflecting, engaging with prayer. And I find that the more you do it, the more it's almost as if there's an inner peace that is established. And honestly, it takes a lot to unnerve. It should take a lot to unnerve.
Yeah.
And maybe I will end by saying there was something, one day I woke up one morning and I had to say this to my children. I told them that day, and they said, Mommy, please don't talk like that. And I said, no, because I want you to know that it's all right. And what was the thought that I woke up with? I woke up with a thought that the happiest day of my life will be the day that I die. And as I thought on that thought, as I reflected on that thought, I thought, wow, it is true. Oh my word. The happiest day of my life is going to be the day that I die. Wow. And I started dancing. The happiest day of my life is going to be, you know? And when I told my children, I said, no, I want you to know so that when I die, you'll remember that Mommy said the happiest day of her life is the day she dies.
Yep.
And so what then is going to affect me?
Yep.
Because the worst that can happen is death. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As a result of whatever happens. So worry not.
Yep. And I totally, that's totally on point in that. And that's why I said I put a caveat to the question that you don't get moody. So, but it's important.
But I want to know what your own take is. I'm curious.
No, I mean, so it's not. I don't think I get moody. It's not as a habit. Right. It's been a while, to be honest. Right. However, research does suggest that positive mood stimulates activity in the prefrontal cortex. that is responsible for decision making, planning, problem solving, and all of that. And so it's important to stay, find the opportunities, all of the things that Mrs. O has talked about that helps you calm your mind and relax and things like that, all the breathing exercises, the meditation, all of that, to help yourself stay in a positive mood, because the negative mood actually decreases activity in your prefrontal cortex. So if you make decisions in that state, it means that you're likely to be making an erroneous decision or a warped decision, right? Now, positive mood does not mean you're overexcited, because research also suggests that extremes of emotions can affect your ability to make optimal decisions. So it's important to keep that in mind. But you certainly don't want to be making decisions in a state of positive mood. As we've said already, watch the mood, watch your anxiety level, do exercises that boost your mental ability, watch programs if you watch TV, or engage with people or activity. You know that thing you said about being sapiosexual, Mrs. O? I don't even know how else to, I just naturally gravitate towards people like that. Unfortunately, we live in an environment that does not value the ability to think deeply. And you hear things like, your own is too much, right? Or all of that, unfortunately. And we wonder why development is behind, right? But that's the environment we live in, especially for women. It's like, you're not here to think, you're just here to do. So I hope that some of these conversations will ensure that we change, if everybody has such a mindset, we change our mindset in that regard. There's some questions in the chat box. Lamide Sonny says, please share advice on finding a healthy balance between actively learning and allowing our minds to rest and recharge. I like that question. Mrs. O, do you want to take a shot at it?
A healthy balance between actively learning
and allowing our minds to rest
and recharge. Let me tell you if you don't mind, I'll share what I do. So let me speak from a practical perspective. I think it is important to create rest time for your body, for your mind, for your brain. So one of the things that I learned, if you remember I said, was that I went for a workshop. It was intellectually stimulating, that particular program that I went for. And I'll tell you why. And then I'll tell you why, and I'll now connect it to where one now learned to rest. Because from that experience, the course that I did, I went all the way, by the way, to Ukraine to do it. So it tells you that I have traveled far and wide in search of learning. I enjoy traveling. It's one of my favorite pastimes. And one of my travel partners is actually on this webinar. God bless you. We have to do it again. Yeah, she can hear me, so that's why I'm speaking. And what's that 3-day? It was called a history making course. It was to help us understand that we're all history makers. And what's a history maker? It's not so much thinking of Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela. Each and every one of us are wired to be history makers, in the sense that if there are certain things that you do not carry out in your lifetime, it will never get done. So you are making history when you carry out those activities, your assignments, what you were sent to earth to do. If you never do it, nobody else is going to do it. So don't think you are replaceable. That's the first mindset you have to have. And on this particular course, I found out that we actually spend an inordinate amount of time on wasteful activities. So on this program, we're able to be in class from 9 o'clock until 9 p.m. We had dinner. After dinner, we came and watched a movie every night. And after that movie that ended about 11 p.m., you had to write the lessons you learned from that movie and submit it by 7 a.m. Now you're in class all day. You have to read a book every single day, finish it, summarize it, and submit it by 7 a.m.
Oh, wow.
It is the first course that I went to where you have to be in class and you can't be reading. Everybody during lunch, nobody was talking, you're reading your book. You're taking your book to the bathroom when you're going to the loo. Everything because you had to submit, and anybody who did not submit was put on the plane to go back to their country. It was very serious. The person who was running the program was trying to tell us that we can achieve a lot in 24 hours and we're living less than. That person has written over 100 books. So he's not joking, he's not playing.
Yeah.
He has significant impact in the space where he operates. But it is true, I did learn on that we have capacity to do a lot more. But that very person also every month takes an entire week where he shuts down, talks to no one, thinks, writes, reflects, and rests. So that was where the challenge was. Go back home and take 3 days every month to think, rest, and recharge. And that is where I started learning how to become more thoughtful and knowing how to rest. And the world doesn't fall apart if you don't engage with it for 2 days. So Lamide, you have to consciously do it. Now, I'm able to shut down for 2 days. And I do it every now and then. I'm actually beginning this year again. I've started this year, 3 days shutting down, but I like to travel, so I go somewhere. But you don't have to go anywhere. You can also just sit at home. And it makes you more productive at the very end of everything.
Yeah.
Your productivity quotient it hits the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that some of what you said already starts to answer Felix's question. He says, can you share some concrete examples of how you integrate learning activities into your daily routines in a way that feels fun and engaging? I struggle to find the time and energy to learn new things after a long work day. Do you have any suggestions for incorporating small, manageable learning activities into your schedule? I mean, can I just suggest that you don't have to shut down?
Please, I think you should answer that.
Yeah, you don't have to shut down for 2 days, because I'm sure you're listening to Mrs. O and saying,
you don't.
No. I'm saying they're probably listening to you and saying that, start to do, you can do that. You can shut down for 2 days. I also can't just shut down anyhow for 2 days, even though I try to from time to time, right? But you can take time. Yesterday night, for example, I realized that I had spent myself. When I say spent myself, as in I was physically tired, I was mentally tired, everything, right? And I had work to do. Now, I could have continued, right? It would have been stressful, but I could have continued. And I just had a cut-off time. I said, I am not doing anything after this time, right? You have to be intentional about it. You can decide that you would read a page of an interesting book every day. If you don't like to read books like me, believe it or not, right? Plug some stuff into your ears, right? That are, there are lots of podcasts these days that are intellectually stimulating, right? Plug it into your ears. You don't have to read it, especially if you're physically tired because your eyes, and all of that. You do that, decide on 15 minutes a day. I guarantee you can do 15 minutes a day. I promise you that, right? And so Mrs. O said something also about lunchtime. Yeah, you're eating, but you're also quickly reading a page of something, or you're catching up on some interesting conversation that stimulates your thinking, right? These are ways to do it. Now, I'm in the academia, so whether I like it or not, I have to be reading something or listening to something. So that's, so I guess that's also a little different. But I guarantee you that even in that space, you can get aged, by not keeping up with. So find what you're interested in. And this also speaks to the Lamide's question. Find an area you're interested in, and begin from there. You don't have to read things that are hard to understand. That's not what intellectual wellness is about, right? But find an area you're interested in. And one of the first things you need to do is remove from your consciousness the idea that it is hard. It is not.